old 500 naira and 1000 naira notes. Allied People's Movement dumps female presidential candidates, backs PDP's Atiku Abubakar. Away from Nigeria, we'll be hearing Russia to test missile in drills with China and South Africa. Hello and welcome. This is News Live and it's broadcasting from our station here in Abuja. Well, my name is Phillips Libin. The Central Bank of Nigeria has described as fake reports that it has authorized banks to collect old 500 naira and 1000 naira notes. Osita Onwa-Nisobi, Director of Corporate Communications of CBN, who made the denial in a statement, also said only old 200 naira notes, as directed by President Muhammadu Buhari in his broadcast, will be accepted by banks. The CBN spokesman said, in line with Mr. President's broadcast of February 16, 2023, the CBN has been directed to only reissue and recirculate the old 200 naira banknotes, and he is expected to circulate as legal tender for 60 days up to April 10, 2023. The CBN advised that members of the public should therefore disregard any message and or information not formally released by the Central Bank of Nigeria on this subject. In conclusion, the Apex Bank said media practitioners are advised to please verify any information from the correct sources before publication. The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, has urged Nigerians to adhere to President Muhammadu Buhari's directive on the deadline of the old 500 naira and 1000 naira notes. Emefiele disclosed that he has had meetings with no less than 14 leaders of the commercial banks since the president's broadcast on Thursday. The Apex Bank governor disclosed this when he met with the president at the presidential villa hours after Buhari made a new announcement on the Naira redesign policy. The governor disclosed that this meeting with the executives of bank is to ensure adequate supply of 200 naira notes to suppress the suffering of Nigerians.
President has given his directives. I have met with about 15 banks this morning later, and we've given them directives about how they should make all the old 200 naira notes available effective today. And I can assure Nigerians that this will help to reduce the pains. We meet with the bankers at least once daily to get feedback and the rest of them. And I think we should just allow this policy work. The pains, temporary pains, are regrettable, but I can assure Nigerians that it will be well. Thank you.
Recall that the president in his broadcast declared that the old 500 naira and 1000 naira notes have ceased to be legal tender, contrary to the Supreme Court injunction. The president stated that old 200 naira notes will remain legal tender in the next 6 days, urging Nigerians to return their old 500 naira and 1000 naira notes to the Apex Bank. A senior advocate of Nigeria, Mike Ezekome, says it is wrong for President Muhammadu Buhari to disobey the Supreme Court order on the old naira notes. The Apex Court had, in an interim order, restrained the federal government from suspending the acceptance of the old naira notes. But in a statement on Friday, Ezekome described the order by the president as a dicta, more in the form of a military decree. The senior lawyer added that Nigerians expected the president to obey the law, adding that by the disobedience of Buhari, he had exhibited the trait of an emperor and overlord. Zekome said apart from being a direct assault on the Apex Court, Buhari's order could lead to chaos and anarchy. Now, Governor Abdullahi Ganduje of Kano State has alleged that the Naira redesign policy of President Muhammadu Buhari is a deliberate attempt to truncate Nigeria's democracy. Ganduje spoke in Kano when he received the Forum of Former Parliamentarians Northwest Zone that visited to intimate him of their resolve to support APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu. Ganduje, whose recorded remarks had gone viral, said it was unfortunate that despite the collective effort made by the APC to ensure Buhari's election victories in 2015 and 2019, after several losses, the president had resolved to pay the party and those that supported him back to destroying the party that brought him to power. The governor, who lamented the hardship brought about by policy, asked why the president and CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, did not think of the policy 7 years ago and why it had to be on the eve of an election. Still on currency crisis, Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai has declared the old 200 naira and 500 naira notes and 1,000 notes legal tenders and directed residents of the state to continue to use them despite President Muhammadu Buhari's directive that the old 500 naira and 1,000 naira notes be returned to the Central Bank of Nigeria, while directing the CBN to recirculate the old 200 naira notes to the financial system to ease the current cash crunch. President Buhari, in a nationwide broadcast, insisted that 500 naira and 1,000 naira notes remain illegal and phased out. In total upfront to the president's approval of the monetary policy directive of the Apex Bank, Governor El-Rufai doubled down his opposition to the policy in a statewide broadcast on Thursday night. The governor, in a counter directive, insisted all previous banknotes remain legal tender. He described the president's directive that the new monetary policy of the CBN stands as illegal and an affront on the Supreme Court. The Zamfara State Wing of the Independent National Electoral Commission has assured that the 2023 general elections in the state must go as scheduled, irrespective of security challenges. The state resident electoral commissioner, Professor Saidu Ahmad, said although there are records of cases of attacks on some communities in the state, it will not alter the 2023 election as scheduled. Professor Ahmad gave the assurance to newsmen during an interaction in his office. He noted that meeting was held last week with all the security chiefs in the state and that the commission was fully informed about the security situation in the state. Ahmad admitted that community members now perpetually live in fear of the bandits, but insisted it will not affect the conduct of the election. And I will be going on a break, and when News Live returns, we'll be looking at a high court in Makurdi has issued an order of interim injunction restraining the People's Democratic Party from expelling Benue State Governor Samuel Autumn from the party. We have details of this and more after this break.
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm at the Envoy Hotel, Diplomatic Drive 305, here for a business weekend. It's been an amazing stay. Conference hall and business facilities here are stylish and innovative. The Envoy Hotel is luxury, esoteric, opulent, full ultimate comfort.
We are more than just a place to stay. We are an icon of comfort, style, and thoughtful luxury. We are Envoy Hotel.
Before you came round, my heart would never beat like
The story of a traveler and his crush.
Before you came round, I was ready to slow down. Before you came round, I was heading for a small disaster. Before you came round, I was ready to blow me down.
Tat Fragrance, the new luxury fragrance for men and women.
Welcome back, and it's good to know that you are still with us on News Live. But before we move forward, here is a recap of our top stories. Central Bank of Nigeria denies authorizing banks to accept old 500 naira and 1000 naira notes. Allied People's Movement dumps female presidential candidate and backs PDP's Atiku Abubakar. Russia to test missile in drills with China and South Africa. With a week to the presidential election, the Allied People's Movement has collapsed its entire structures in support of the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, and his running mate, Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa. The national chairman of the APM, Yusuf Antali, disclosed this at a press conference in Abuja. According to him, the party took the decision after its National Executive Committee meeting on crucial national issues, particularly the upcoming presidential election. The adoption of Atiku means the APM will not be supporting the aspiration of its presidential candidate, Princess Chichi Ojio. Antala said the party took the decision after evaluating the democratic credentials of Atiku and his running mate Okowa, and considered it appropriate in national interest to adopt them for president and vice president in the forthcoming election. A non-governmental organization in Jos, Youth Initiative Against Violence and Human Rights Abuse, has constituted a 7-man peace and mediation committee to prevent electoral violence and ensure peaceful and credible polls in the general elections in Plateau and Nigeria as a whole. Now, inaugurating the committee in Jos, Jacob Joaquim, the executive director of the organization, says the event is part of his project tagged Election Violence Monitoring and Mitigating, aimed at ensuring peaceful election in the country. And Aswi Zaid was there and now tells us more on that story.
Elections are a few days ahead, and to ensure free, fair and peaceful election, the Youth Initiative Against Violence and Human Rights Abuse constitute a 7-man peace and mediation committee in Jos to prevent election violence ahead of the 2023 general elections.
Yaba and his partners must mention that this committee is not in contention with any structure in the state, but set up to complement the role of other structures, as there is no positive action that will be more than enough.
Stakeholders use the medium to call on Nigerians to come out and vote their leaders without fear or intimidation.
There should be life after election, so do not allow yourself to be used for any violence. You should go there, cast your vote. Never allow yourself to be disenfranchised. Never allow yourself to be intimidated. But please, let's have a very sound, free, fair, and credible election.
This is a very, very critical and important election towards building our nation. And so I call on all the citizens to ensure that they participate, because this is something that has to do with the progress of Nigeria and the future of our children. So we need to encourage everybody to come out and vote and select the candidates of their choice.
So the need, therefore, for the election to be peaceful, to be violent-free, is so that we'll have credible leaders.
The 7-man Peace Committee cut across civil organizations, traditional institutions, security agencies, government and media, and academy. Nasru Saidu, Viewer TV News, Jos.
Now, switching gears, a high court in Makurdi has issued an order to interim injunction restraining the People's Democratic Party, its National Working Committee, National Executive Committee, or its national officers that has elected or appointed from expelling Benue State Governor Samuel Ortom from the party. Now, Justice A.I. Itoyi Yiman issued the order following the suit brought before the court on Wednesday. Ortom was listed as plaintiff applicant, while the PDP and the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) were listed at first and second respondent. Among the reliefs Ortom sought and obtained is an order restraining the PDP from expelling, suspending, or placing any other punishment on him, pending the determination of the motion on notice for interlocutory injunction. The court also restrained the PDP from seeking to disqualify the Benue State Governor from contesting or not to be placed on the ballot paper for February 25th National Assembly election, in which he is contesting for the Benue Northwest Senatorial District on the platform of the party, pending the determination of the motion on notice for interlocutory injunction. Taraba State Government has distanced itself from the allegation of meddling in the affairs of All Progressive Congress (APC) in the state. The Commissioner of Information and Reorientation, Lois Emmanuel, said this in a press briefing to newsmen in Ajalingo. Here's the report.
Commissioner of Information Lois Emmanuel, while briefing newsmen, said Senator Emmanuel Bacha's utterances during his interview on national television mirrored his frustrations over his failing gubernatorial ambition. Lois said Emmanuel Bacha barely had anything reasonable to say apart from throwing brickbats at the office and person of Governor Darius Ishaku.
He claimed that no development has been taking place in Taraba State under the administration of Governor Darius Dixon Ishaku. It is the immediate proof of Bacha's infertile memory. He fails to and from airport every week since the coming of Ishaku, yet he does not know who completed the airport project and introduced daily flights into the airport from Abuja.
The commissioner said he only made caricatures of himself as he was hesitant, confused, and unable to make sense of whatever he planned to say on the television. She wondered how can Senator Emmanuel Bacha, who spent 8 years in the House of Representatives and another 8 years in the Senate, could exhibit so much barrenness in knowledge and familiarity with the issues regarding his state of origin.
He was obviously taciturn, confused, and unable to make sense of whatever he plans to come and say on television. Otherwise, how will a person who spent 8 years in House of Representatives, 12 years in the Senate, exhibit so much barrenness in knowledge and familiarity with issues regarding his state of origin?
She says the PDP has been in power in the state since 1999 and remained the leading party till date, lamenting that it is the APC's desperate leaders that are acquiring weapons to cause confusion and commotion during the elections. Lois advises Senator Emmanuel Bacha to stop looking for scapegoats for his declining political fortunes in the PDP, saying he should rather look inwards. Lindogana, Viewer TV News, Jalingo.
Now, Governor Darius Ishaku has shown dismay over the alleged replacement of the new rescue teachers for employment with preferential candidates. The governor stated this in his speech during the presentation of appointment letters to over 1,000 successful applicants at the gymnastic hall of Julian Yame Stadium, Jalingo. Here's the report.
Governor Ishaku during the event directed the head of state civil service to investigate the matter with a view to addressing the anomalies. The governor urges newly recruited civil servants to contribute positively towards the growth of the state, adding that it is part of his administration's determination to boost human development in the state. He encourages the successful applicants to make future plans for the betterment of their lives.
I'm advising you young ones, you may not get this advice easily. You are starting today, start to plan. You go to DDI garden, you start to deposit. Maybe in 5 years, 10 years, you have paid off.
On his part, the Secretary to the State Government, SSG, Anthony Jellison, said the interest of all the senatorial zones of the state was represented. The SSG added that the selection was based on merit and transparency.
You have left an indelible mark in the history of Taraba State in employment and other developmental projects executed in the state, which will be remembered for a very, very, very long time to go. I wish to congratulate the successful candidates that have come and gathered here. You should also note that there are other qualified candidates that should have been opportune to be employed, but God made it possible for you to have been selected.
Earlier, Taraba State Chairman Civil Service Commission John Mamman lauds Governor Darius Ishaku for prioritizing human development in the state. John revealed that Governor Ishaku has been the only governor who lifted an embargo on employment in the state since 1999. He urges the successful applicants to justify the gesture of the governor by contributing positively to the progress of the state.
I wish to state that the commission will continue to guide the civil servants in line with his mandate of ensuring a thorough and responsible civil service, which is the engine room for the implementation of government policies and programs.
At the event, there was a symbolic presentation of appointment letters to the successful applicants. About 1,545 successful applicants benefited from the gesture. Linda Guana, VOA TV News, Jalingo.
Still in Taraba, the Taraba State Ministry of Health says they have recorded 166 suspected cases, with 17 dead from the new outbreak of Lassa fever in the state.
While addressing the press
Vakai made the statement during a press conference in Jalingo, the state capital. Here's Linda Guana with the report.
Out of the 166 suspected cases, 60 turned out positive, with 17 people dead, including a Chinese national. Vakai says the statistic, which were obtained from the National Center for Disease Control, was worrisome, which necessitated the press briefing to inform the public about the outbreak of the dangerous disease. He explained that Lassa fever virus is contagious in nature and can be transmitted within a short period of time. If contracted, he wants people to stay away from bush rats and other things that are capable of exposing them to the virus.
Based on the statistics that we are having, of the total number of 166 suspected cases and 60 that are confirmed, 17 people have died, which gave us a case fatality rate of almost 25%. So it's way above the normal non-case fatality rate in literature, which is usually within 15 to 17%. And because of the contagious nature of the Lassa fever virus, it has become imperative for me to make this press briefing to the people of Taraba State to be cautious, because the fatality of this disease is very high. So far, we have lost about 17 people since the onset of the outbreak, which include a Chinese national that passed on yesterday. Therefore, it is necessary for us to prevent our people from getting infected with the Lassa fever virus.
The commissioner calls on the public to find precautionary measures through protecting themselves and to stay away from anything that can cause the disease. He advocates that anyone who comes in contact with someone that is diagnosed with the disease should try and go for testing, because Lassa fever when detected early, could save the life of the person.
We will try our best to ensure that the case fatality is reduced to the barest minimum, and that can only be done by when you see people, be your neighbor or friend, that have symptoms suggestive of Lassa fever. There are other diseases that mimic Lassa fever. Malaria mimic Lassa fever. Typhoid mimic Lassa fever. So the only way you can confirm that it's Lassa fever is when you are tested. Okay, and the earlier you are tested, if you show symptoms, the better.
Vakai further warns medical personnel attending to persons suspected with Lassa fever to protect themselves against the virus, stating that medical personnel have lost their lives while protecting others, which ought not to be so. He calls on the people of the state to remain calm as the government is doing its best to bring down the disease to a barest minimum. Linda Guana, VOA TV News, Jalingo.
Now, in a bid to foster unity and peace among citizens as the 2023 general elections draws nearer, the EU Support Group, in collaboration with other sisters agencies and the SOS Children Villages, have organized a featured program and training for women and other marginalized groups on peace building, mitigation, human rights, gender equality, and freedom to participate in governance. The event apparently has been targeted to deconstruct the mindset of individuals against spiking hate for one another in the forthcoming general elections.
So it is a belief that if you're able to instill this message on peace building for women, and then they'll be able to cascade, and step down the message to their various constituencies, groups where they belong to, and we can record, we can record a creditable, amount of, peace during the 2023 general election, especially in Kaduna North and Kaduna South.
One of the special guests, Khadija Gambo, urged the electorates not to make poll a do-or-die affair, as no politician is worth dying for.
We are going in for elections, and so what we are saying is that Nigeria must not go into blazes. Nigeria must not come to an end because we are going for elections. Amen. We are going for election, not war. And so, and all of the candidates are Nigerians who are eligible to be voted. And so nobody is worth dying for. Nobody is worth killing for. But that we all deserve to be alive to enjoy our country at the end of these elections.
With just few days to the general elections, the call is for all citizens and electorate to give peace a chance while trying to elect leaders that can govern the affairs of the nation. Remember, you're still watching news live on VOA Television. We'll be having business and international news coming to you right after the break. Do stay tuned. And on business news, Fitch Rating, a global credit ratings agency, has warned that the cash crunch occasioned by the redesign of the 200 naira 500 naira and 1000 naira banknotes by the Central Bank of Nigeria may boost demand for foreign currency and aggravate foreign exchange shortage in the country. In its latest report titled Nigeria's Economic Challenges, highlight the importance of post-election policies. Fitch said it was not yet clear whether there will be long-term economic benefit of the Naira redesign policy. The report stated the Supreme Court's suspension of the 10th February deadline for exchanging old banknotes into new eases, at least temporarily, the risks of intensifying cash shortage. Fitch noted that it downgraded Nigeria's rating to B negative from B in November 2022 with a stable outlook due to the country's continued deterioration of debt servicing cost and external liquidity. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited is set to begin drilling of the first oil well in Obi, Kenya, Nasarawa State on March 21st. Now, Group Chief Executive Officer of NNPCL, Mialikari, made the disclosure when he led management of the company on a courtesy visit to the Executive Governor of Nasarawa State, Engineer Abdullahi Sule, in Lafia. Kyari said the company began exploration activities in 2010 and has technically found petroleum environment in the state. The Chief Executive Officer pointed out that exploration will not be limited to the current location of Obi, Kenya local government. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has revealed that the amount spent as subsidy on premium motor spirit, popularly known as petrol, had crossed 400 billion naira monthly. NNPCL Group Chief Executive Officer Mialikari disclosed this at the headquarters of the oil firm at the ongoing final cut-over to NNPC Limited from being a corporation. Kyari explained that the oil company was spending about 202 naira as subsidy on every liter of petroleum consumed across the country, stressing that about 65 million liters of PMS was pumped daily into the market by NNPCL. Although he said the oil company will continue to meet its obligations by providing PMS for Nigeria, Kyari pointed out that over 400 billion naira monthly subsidy had been a severe strain on NNPCL's cash flow. The Tropical General Investment Group says it has entered into the collaborative arrangement with the Union Bank of Nigeria PLC through its company Wakot Rice Limited to open bank accounts for about 7,000 farmers operating in rural areas of Kebbi State. A statement by the company said the move was geared towards driving financial inclusion and including the beneficiaries in Nigeria's evolving digital economy. TGI's Group Director of Corporate Affairs, Sadiq Kasim, stated this in Abuja during a panel discussion at the just concluded seminar on digital economy organized by the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture. According to him, one of the critical philosophies of the TGI Group is to operate within the communities as a partner for growth and development. And now we'll be looking at international news. Now, police fired tear gas to disperse hundreds of supporters of Senegal opposition leader Ousmane Sonko after he left court in the capital, Dakar, where hearings are underway in the libel case against him. The demonstrations are the latest sign of unrest in the West African country, where elections next year could split Sonko against President Macky Sall if the president seeks a third term, a move that opponents says is unconstitutional. Sall has not ruled out running in the election, which the government said will take place on February 25, 2024. Now, Sonko supporters and some opposition leaders says the libel case and another legal action are attempts to discredit a popular rival. Senegal has long been seen as a bastion of democracy in an unstable region, but critics, especially among Sanko's youthful support, have become disillusioned with South's crackdown on political opponents and on protests against him. Russia, China, and South Africa are set to begin naval drills off South Africa's Indian Ocean coast in a demonstration of the three countries' close ties amid Russia's invasion of Ukraine and China's tense relationship with the West. The 10 days of exercises, named Moses II, will coincide with the first anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine on February 24th. A Russian frigate, the Admiral Goskov, arrived in Cape Town earlier this week, sporting the letter Z and V on its sides, letters that mark Russia's weapons on the front lines in Ukraine and are used as patriotic symbol in Russia. In protest, a small yacht flying Ukraine's flag sailed by the Russian frigate in Cape Town harbor. South African protesters opposed to the exercises are expected to demonstrate at the Russian consulate in Cape Town. The warship is set to test fire in Zircon missile during the Point naval drills. According to Russia's state news agency TASS, the test will be the first launch of the missile in an international exercise. China has imposed trade and investment sanctions on United States military contractors Lockheed Martin and Raytheon for supplying weapons to Taiwan in what is seen as latest efforts to isolate the self-governing island, which China claims as part of its own territory. The U.S. arms manufacturing companies are barred from importing goods into China or making new investment in the country, China's Ministry of Commerce announced. The ministry said the firms had been placed on an unreliable entities list over their sale of weaponry to Taiwan. The move appeared to either make good or an announcement of sanctions made against the firms in February 2022 or amounted to additional sanction by Beijing. Beijing also announced sanctions against Raytheon and other defense contractors and relevant American individuals in October 2020. And with that story, we end News Live. But before we go, a quick look at a recap of our top stories. You've heard Central Bank of Nigeria denies authorizing banks to accept old 500 naira and 1000 naira notes. Also, Allied People's Movement dumps female presidential candidate and backs PDP Atiku Abubakar. And away from Nigeria, we've heard Russia to test missile in drills with China and South Africa. Well, that's all for News Live this evening. Well, my name is Philip Slevin. Do have a great evening. Enjoy the rest of our programs.